The shift from heavy industry and agriculture into high-tech devices and machine components brought economic diversity, allowing new media to flourish. Our awareness of the Western models of social communication became higher due to rising presence of non-Korean movies and TV programs, while the South Korean products such as K-pop music genre and TV serialized dramas caused popularity of the country to surge worldwide. However, significant social problems relevant to the issue of social inequality have surfaced as well. The aforementioned urbanization of the country and concentration of the population in larger agglomerations were at their peak in the 1990s, and in addition to the increasing popularity of the nuclear family model, have further caused the deterioration of the livelihood of the elderly. The national pension system is underdeveloped and has not brought so far, especially in the 1990s, full benefits to the retired employees, most of whom used to work either in agriculture or one of the chaebol, major conglomerates, and were no longer under the paternalistic protection exerted by their companies during the period of authoritarianism. Their own children, following the syndrome of the wild goose, are no longer obliged to stay close to their parents and support them, the most absolute point of focus being education of their own offspring. As evidenced by the latest research, the percentage of the elderly living with their children has fallen from 81 in 1980 to 44 in 2004, which further signifies the problematic situation. The academic deficiencies among the elderly are also common, and this, along with their conservative mindsets, brings forward the question: in what ways do the young Koreans represent the image of the new South Korea? The educational drive present within all socio-economic classes of South Korea may be perceived as a reformed version of the exam and bureaucracy-centered mentality of the former Yangban, scholar nobility, families of the Joseon period. In that setting, achievement of the specific scholarly or official rank was directly tied to the genealogical status of the kinship group, and therefore was placed among the highest duties of the Yangban children. With the advent of modernity and the downfall of feudal system, the pressure has remained, and even though parents can no longer be assured that their children will repay the favor by the means of a lifelong financial support, there is still an overwhelming sense of obligation and gratitude among students and graduates towards their families. South Korean education, with all of its economic burdens and memorization-based studying, is straining both to the younger and older generations, and the course of career is largely predetermined due to peer pressure and media emphasizing the reputation of the so-called SKY universities, as the institutions graduates of which are hired by various chaebol conglomerates most frequently. Those examinees who do not acquire the number of points required for entry not only must seek alternative, less recognized academic institutions, but also face a deep sense of shame of not fulfilling the expectations placed on them. However, the harsh reality of cram schools and endless memorization does not form the entirety of Korean students' lives anymore. Online games such as StarCraft are starting to be perceived as a form of career and even as a credible source of income to the dedicated players. Furthermore, another embodiment of globalized mindset among Koreans is the rising popularity of overseas education, perceived as less restrictive than its counterpart in the Republic of Korea. Regardless of location, older generations still typically pay large sums of money for education of their children, as their frustrations on these issues are very apparent by the results of the recent research. The uncertainty concerning careers of Korean youth, as well as the future of their parents, is further increased by new types of communication media, which may eventually override the traditional Confucianism-influenced way of life. Online games represent only one side of the deep-reaching influence high technology exerted on modern South Korea. Confucianism, a system for hundreds of years serving as justification for Korean hierarchism, has been, at least to a certain extent, visibly shaken by the non-hierarchic online forums and instant communicators, where the speech levels do not matter. This phenomenon may be interpreted as a form of escapism into a neutral ground by young and old alike. Games, instant communicators, and information media being accessible on mobile devices is a further sign of change in South Korean society, as the further dissemination of dissemination of information potentially increases awareness of the world among traditionally conservative elderly, This revolution was helped by the abolition of censorship in the beginning of the 1990s. Use of internet, however, may be restricted by such factors as lack of technical knowledge, frequently exhibited by the elderly, or the unwillingness of younger generations or official institutions towards organizing courses in computer science for the aforementioned underprivileged groups. The harsh reality of ethno-linguistics-dependent social communication has even caused, especially in recent times, when far more specialized online games and communities emerged, a creation of bonds online. There has been a notable case in the recent years in which a married couple was so involved in controlling matters of its online game counterpart that they neglected their infant child to the point of its starvation. However, this issue is certainly multidimensional and cannot be easily assigned positive or negative connotations. As one of the many agents of change in South Korea, internet and new media provide new opportunities of development as well as the new forms of expression, but cannot fully undermine the traditional Confucian culture, as it was internalized as a type of national doctrine after Korean War, and the subsequent influences of globalization amount to modifications within the system and not of its complete abrogation in favor of purely Western products and thought, which is further supported by the words of Samuel Huntington concerning national cultural identity. Still, in the domain of patriarchy and group thinking, one part of society does not need internet applications to show its new impulses and changing image. And about this group, Korean woman, I would like to talk next. Women's position in South Korean society is largely determined by two factors: legislation aiming at creation of full equality of rights between genders and the changing opinions of the role of the patrilinear family as the basic unit of the nation, as said Cho-un. While the percentage of women employed in various economic sectors has been steadily rising since the 1980s, there is still much to be done by the government in this respect, since, by extension, the difficulties of working in a company and the financial uncertainty cause women, especially single ones, to be reluctant towards creating a family structure of their own. On the other hand, the Neo-Confucian terminology, especially concerning the concept of gi, or material force, is still frequently being used as a justification of preference of companies towards male workers who are perceived as more productive and less burdened by issues of the body, such as menstruation, pregnancy, etc., that women. The birth ratio has been indirectly influenced by the fact that Korean society has always traditionally favored boys, and while there's no longer any necessity for male descendants to conduct ancestral rites, their key role in familial structures has been preserved, making girls being much less important to the well-being and honor of the family. The abolition of the so-called hojuje household management system, in which only male siblings of a woman or her spouse could have full legal rights of a familial authority head, is an issue widely discussed in South Korea to this day. This and other examples of patriarchalism and patrilineality in Korean tradition and Confucian doctrine make it even more difficult for retired and unemployed women to seek financial and developmental opportunities, already highly limited due to the aforementioned changes regarding structure of Korean family. The conclusion. The goal of this presentation was not to give detailed data concerning employment of Korean men, women, university graduates, the elderly and other groups. Instead, the point of focus was set on the rapid and transformative processes initiated by the divisive Korean War, which, aside of political effects, has laid bare the ideological differences within the Korean nation, formerly united in feudalism. The technological advances, being the chief cause for developing new forms of interpersonal communication, was itself made possible to fully flourish after the fall of dictatorship. The persons living alone without any form of external help, such as estranged elderly, laid-off workers, and even some high school students who disappointed their parents, all represent the harsh reality of South Korean society, with changing mindsets of the youth further complicating intergenerational relations. The hope may lie in creation and popularization of new media, which may ease the feeling of hopelessness, raise awareness, and pinpoint new opportunities to frustrated members of these underprivileged groups. While at present it is the youth that is the most proficient in